Good morning, baseball fans. Monday, March the 4th. Appreciate you tuning in, watching us across the state for another episode of Around the State, a PBR or Prep Baseball Alabama podcast, where we take a brief look back at the week from last week and, touch on this week. But the big thing we do is we'll be releasing our 1A through 7A polls. We've got some changes this week. And then we'll be releasing our second edition of the Prep Baseball Alabama Power 25. Big week last week. As I said, there is some change or some movement among those teams in 1A through 7A. And, we had some, maybe we said this last week, but I think it even got harder this week, with some teams making some small adjustments up, down, possibly staying the same. But, as we get into the season and you get more games, you get a better feel, for what teams can do, not over a 1 or 2 game period, but over 2 or 3 weeks, you find out more of what teams are capable of and, where they should be ranked, if they should be ranked. But, man, it's just, busy across the state with games everywhere, good quality games across the state. I know that we are stationed in different parts of the state this week to try to get to as many games as possible. The weather is iffy this week. I think there's a chance of rain just about every single day across the state. How much it rains, I don't know. I know there's been some games moved up from Tuesday to later this afternoon. I plan on being at the Sparkman at Buckhorn game today at 4:30. And then, we'll see how the rest of the week plays out with the, tomorrow looks like the heaviest rain across the state tonight and then tomorrow. So we'll see how the rest of the week plays out with the weather. But I know, Austin, you've made a trip down south for some big games in the Mobile area this week. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm down in the Mobile area, and some more teams down here that we wanted to see, and we don't really get down here much in the spring season, so figured I'd make the trip back and check out some more teams. And like you said, the weather is a big question mark. I think it wasn't as bad a few days ago. I think it's gone up over the last couple of days, but there's some good games this week, and some teams that I'm excited to see, some matchups I'm excited to see, and it's just waiting on the weather. Hopefully we stay a little bit dry down here enough where we're able to play some baseball.
Yeah, that's the one thing you learn, as a coach or player. Yeah, that's one thing you can't control is the weather. And we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. A couple of things before we get started with our classification rankings. Just a few things. Today, just a brief look today. It's our normal week. I guess you can say normal. Today, as I mentioned, we'll be releasing our 1A through 7A and Prep Baseball Alabama Power 25 polls here. They will also be released later this afternoon on our social media channels. Tomorrow, we will be releasing our Mizuno Pitcher and Player of the Week. Again, some quality nominations this week. Thanks to those coaches that sent those in. Again, we've got one Pitcher of the Week and one Player of the Week. And then on Wednesday, we will be releasing our Diamond Notes as will be the norm throughout the season. The Diamond Notes is simply, other people that were nominated by their coaches that maybe just didn't, that obviously weren't chose for Pitcher of the Week or weren't chose for Player of the Week. But that will be coming out on Wednesday. As always, at the games that we get out and see, we were at a ton of games last week. Our scout blog, we update that daily, and that may not be daily. If weather wipes out the entire state on Tuesday, we obviously would not have a scout blog from there, because of the weather. But again, be checking on that scout blog that goes out when we get out to see games, some standouts from the games that we see. Our event schedule for the summer has been released with the exception of two events. We've got 2 more events that we will be releasing And we are tentatively planning, and we feel very certain that those two events will be in the Tuscaloosa area. But our other events are on our website, including I guess we can sort of let the cat out of the bag now a little bit, Austin, since it's on the website, the Prep Baseball Alabama State Games. It's going to be a future games type field within the state. And again, we'll talk more about that later, but it is on our website now. You know, some teams, and again, I'm just going over some things with you. You know, it's already getting crunch time for some teams. I mean, you know, you and I talked before we came on live today. You know, some of those 5-team areas. I know there's a 4A area up here in the Huntsville area. You know, they began area play last week, and that continues today with those. You know, that's those 5-team areas. So, you know, it's getting. You know, these teams are starting to get ready for the important games. Again, it's already started for a select few, but that will continue over the course of the next couple of weeks. I will tell you that next week on our podcast, we'll be doing much of the same, but we will also be previewing our final high school event of the season, which will be the North Alabama Showdown, which will take place March 14th through 16th at James Clemens High School and Hazel Green High School. Again, we will talk more about that next week on the podcast. But I think that's about all I've got just as some housekeeping things. I think it's time to get to the main reason we're on here, and the reason that those numbers keep popping up there in the top left for us. More people getting on. They want to see where their team or if their team is ranked. I think I preface this every week. I'm going to say it again. You know, number one, strength of schedule is important. Number two, win-loss record is important, but we do want to see you know, we want to see the quality teams against other quality teams. So, you know, it's a difficult job doing this, but, you know, there's, you know, it's important for us to look at who teams have played. Record is important, but at the same time, who are they getting these wins against? Or, you know, these tough losses, a team that might have 5 or 6 losses right now. You know, they may be ranked because they played teams that, you know, larger than them in a larger classification. There were some very tough decisions this week. There are some teams right outside the top 10. I know in 7A, it was very tough. We'll talk about that later as we get to it. But, you know, I also want to, before we get started, I want to let you know that, you know, if you have any questions or comments, please put them in that comment box out to the right. We'll try to answer those questions if we can. You know, and maybe you'll see your team listed here. If not, it doesn't mean anything. The only thing that matters is how you do in those 6 area games if you're in a 4-team area. So I think
another thing we failed to mention is the East Alabama Classic coming up at the end of this week, which is always a loaded field. I think it's probably got its best field yet. I know Thompson's, Hewitt Trustful's coming down, Auburn
County.
Tuscaloosa County, a lot of good teams coming out, and you may be coming down to central part of the area possibly, but I'll definitely be there, be covering it for the Thursday through Saturday. So excited about that in the central part of the state. So
I guess we can go and get started with our 1A through 7A rankings. Austin, I guess you want me to get 1A or you want to get 1A?
It doesn't matter. You can get it.
All right, I'll be glad to get us started in 1A. There you see it on the screen. We've got one new team this week, all right, and that's the team that comes in at number 10, Galesville. They've gotten off to a very hot start. They're at 6-0. Again, great start there. At number 9, staying the same from last week, going 1-0 this week, is Sweetwater. The Bulldogs come in at number 9. At number 8, Leroy, they jump up a couple spots after going 3-0 and come in with a 5-2 record. Summerton Christian drops a couple spots. They went 1-2 on the week, but they've played some very good teams as well. They are at 5-2. At number 6, Florala. Florala is just getting started. We mentioned last week about just about the entirety of their team played basketball. So they come in, they played 2 games, they won both of them. They sit at 2-2. Number 5,
got a big game today against Brantley.
That's right. They've got Brantley, and we appreciate Florala tagging us in their tweets just to let us know that we saw that. Yeah, they've got Brantley today. That should be a big one. Number 5, Billingsley drops a couple spots. They went 3-1. If I'm right, yeah, they went 3-1. They sit at 3-3 on the year. There's Brantley staying put at number 4. Where is that game today? Do you know, Austin? No.
I do not know.
Okay. All right. Didn't mean to put you on the spot there. At number 4, as I said, Brantley, they're also undefeated at 1-0. Milry continues to slide up. 2 weeks ago, they were at number 9. Last week, they were at number 6. This week, they come in at number 3, gotten off to an impressive 8-0 start. Hackleburg stays right where they were last week at 2-1, have an overall record of 4-2. And Appalachian stays at number 1 as they are undefeated with a 4-0 record.
At Brantley. You're at Brantley.
At Brantley. So that should be a good one today. Number 4 versus number 6 in 1A. That's a big time 1A matchup. About 6 or 7 teams right outside of the top 10. And let me preface this. We said it last week. We get 95% of our records from teams' game changers. If teams do not update that or they don't have a game changer, we have a couple other avenues that we use. So again, some of these records may be off 1 or 2 games, but we try to get these as close as possible. Berry's at 0-1. Calhoun, we do not believe has yet to play a game. Coosa Christian is at 4-6. Lynn is at 0-1. Spring Garden is 1-0. Victory Christian is at 5-1. And rounding out those teams to keep an eye on in 1A, Winterboro is at 3-2.
We've got a new number 1 in Class 2A. But starting at the bottom, we have one new team inside this week's ranking, and that is Wicksburg. Wicksburg has really gotten off to a strong start to start the year. They sit at 8-2, and they went 4-0 this past week and continue to climb up the rankings. They make their debut and sit at number 10. Staying put at number 9 this week is Lindsay Lane Christian. They continue to roll and went 3-1 this past week. At number 8, sliding down 1 spot this week is Mars Hill Bible. They sit at 3-3 and went 1-2 this past week, but played at Russellville, played Russellville and North Jackson, played some larger classification schools. Sliding up a couple 1 spot, a team that you saw this past week, Whitesburg Christian. They are 3-2 and went 2-1 this past week, and I think they beat Decatur Heritage. Forget who their 1 loss was to, but you saw them. I think it was the first game of the doubleheader they played on Saturday. I thought you think you were really impressed with them. At number 6, sliding down 1 spot, we have Tuscaloosa Academy, who sits at 5-3. At number 5, sliding up 1 spot is Donahoe. Donahoe is gotten off to a 2-0 start, and then. At number 4, we have GW Long, who stays put there after going 1-2 this past week. But we know the quality of competition that they play on their schedule. So they're always going to be a consistent power and one of the more competitive teams in Class 2A every year. So they stay put at number 4. At number 3 is Ayrton. The Purple Cats went 3-1 this past week. And then flip-flopping the number 1 and number 2 spot. At number 2, Vincent slides down 1 spot this week. They still sit at 8-1, went 2-1 this past week. But it's not really as much as towards Vincent. It's more just about how the quality of baseball that Pike Liberal Arts seems to be playing right now. They sit at 7-0. Won their only game, won their lone game this past week. I know they've beaten Headland. I think they beat Enterprise. They've beaten a lot of I don't think that they played a school I think they played 3A and up their whole schedule, and they're undefeated, which is extremely impressive. We knew that they were a powerhouse at the AISA level, and it certainly looks like they're continuing to trend in the right direction and at the AHSAA level in their second year. So that's our new number 1 in Class 2A. Looking at some teams just outside the top 10. We have Bayshore Christian, who sits at 5-4. Collinsville is 5-1. Fayetteville is 3-5. North Sand Mountain is 5-4. Reeltown is 6-2. Pleasant Valley is 5-1, and then rounding out, Hatton sits at 6-3.
And jumping to 3A, we've got 1 new team this week, and the same number 1 team from a week ago. We'll look at those rankings real quick. At number 10, Hoax Bluff. They went 1-2 this week. They dropped from 9 to 10. They come in at 5-3. At number 9, also dropping a spot, is Westbrook Christian. I believe they had 2 losses. I believe, I may be wrong. I think they were to Pale City.
And
Maybe
South,
not.
I think.
Okay, it was a larger school. It was a quality club. They did go, they lost those 2 games, but again, taking into consideration who these teams are playing, and there's that new team this week making a jump, coming in at 5-2 is Thomasville. Again, that's a notorious strong baseball program in 3A. At number 7 is Lauderdale County. They do drop a spot. They did go 1-0, but again, dropping a spot there is nothing against them. It's just what some of the other teams did behind them. So again, Lauderdale County sits at 1-1. Speaking of teams behind them, Providence Christian, they went 1-0 on the week. They moved up from 7 to 6. At number 5, staying put. Well, I guess I can go ahead and tell you 1 through 5 stays put this week. St. James, and I believe they've got a big game today. I forget who it is. I think they play somebody really good today. St. James comes in with a record of 5-2, staying put at number 5. At number 4 is Gordo. Again, they stay put there. They're 2-3, went 1-2 this week. But their strength of schedule we've already discussed. Prattville Christian went 1-0, and they stay at number 3 with a 6-2 record. Piedmont, they went 1-1, but the one game they lost, I believe, was to Pepperell, Georgia, who is a 9-0 team out of Georgia, a really good team. Piedmont lost to them on Saturday, so it's hard to punish them for that loss. And then staying at number 1, a team that I saw Saturday that is a legitimate bona fide contender in 3A. Obviously, we have them ranked number 1 for a reason, Decatur Heritage. They come in at 5-1. They did have that extra inning loss to Whitesburg Christian. But, man, I really love the depth of the arms for Decatur Heritage, and the top of their order, 1 through about 5 or 6. They can do damage. And I found this out, Austin. I didn't even tell you this. And this is the crazy part with Decatur Heritage. There is not a senior in the starting lineup at Decatur Heritage. And
Really?
Yes. And none of their arms are senior either. So, man, what's that?
Dodd. Did you say Decatur Heritage? Did you say Decatur?
Okay. If I said Whitesburg Christian, I apologize.
I think you did.
Okay, I apologize. Decatur Heritage does not have a senior in the starting lineup, and none of their arms are seniors as well. So, again, I apologize if I said Whitesburg Christian. I meant Decatur Heritage. So
I think you said Decatur Heritage.
Okay, so get used to seeing that name up towards the top, Decatur Heritage. Again, got a legitimate shot this week. Some of those, or all of those teams outside the top 10 in 3A, you've got Excel at 3-2, Fayette County at 6-4. New Brockton, they did drop out from last week. After they had a decent week, I think they were 3-2, but they sit at 7-3. And I guess you could say if we had a number 11 team, it would be New Brockton. Ohatchee is at 4-2. Plainview is at 4-3. Winfield 5-4. W.S. Neal at 7-4. Geraldine at 4-1, and Houston Academy rounds us out in 3A at 2-4.
And you were right on Westbrook Christian. They got beat 3-2 and 4-2 by Pale City on Saturday.
Yeah.
So moving along to Class 4A, have to say number 1, but a little bit of a shuffling and a new team inside our top 10 this week. At number 10, sliding down a few spots this week is Brooks. After going 0-2, but they sit at 3-3 and had a chance to win. I know you were there this past Tuesday to see Christian Chatterton throw against Sparkman, and I think they had a pretty big lead and kind of let it get away from them at the end of the game, and Sparkman was able to win that game. But Brooks sits at 3-3. At number 9, sliding up one spot, we have Munford, who continues to have an impressive season.
Did Maggie, did she not like the idea of Brooks being 10? She's barking.
No, I don't think so. He's causing trouble. At number 9, we have Munford, like I said, who's gotten off to a really good start. I think they had a really good season last year and continue to have success. They're 8-1 and went 2-0 this past week, so they're at number 9. Making their way back into the rankings this week is Deschler, who was number 9 in our preseason poll. Slid out and was out of the poll last week, just outside the top 10. They make their way back in. They're at 6-2. At number 7, we have Trinity Presbyterian, who slides down one spot after going 2-1 on the week. They sit at 6-3. At number 6 is Etowah. The Blue Devils slide down a few spots. And listen, I mean, they went 2-2 this past week. We've talked about Etowah. I mean, it's not going to be the flashiest of records, but I mean, it's you could probably bet on it clicking. You know, when the most important time of the season comes around, and that's what happened last year. Not the flashiest of records, like I said. They sit at 4-6 and sit at number 6. But the defending 4A state champs, they'll continue to figure it out, playing some big time competition. Staying put at number 5 this week is American Christian. We think American Christian has probably some of the best talent on their roster in terms of high profile guys in Class 4A. They sit at 2-5, but like Etowah, that record's a little bit deceiving. And number 4 is Westminster Christian. They're at 5-1. They went 3-1 this past week. And being a 4A school, they've played some big time. I think they played a lot of 7A schools. I know they've beaten Huntsville, they've beaten Austin. Who they get beat by this? They beat Athens this past week. I forget who their lone loss was to.
I forget. But I was mentioning, earlier about area series beginning. Westminster Christian, they open their area series today against New Hope. That should be a good area series in 4A.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to look that up.
They look really good here in the early part of the season. Guess Bello don't like Westminster Christian. At number 3, we've got Corner, who slides up one spot. They sit at 7-2. They're 3-0 this past week. At number 2, Bibb County, they stay put, going 2-0 this past week. And man, they continue to have really, really strong season. I think they beat Demopolis, another really good team in Class 5A this past week. Bibb County continue to look to be strong as they have over the past few years. And then staying put at number 1, the Bayside Academy Admirals. They went 2-0 this past week and sit at 6-2. And we talked about them, their frontline arms that they have. Got Pitts in the middle of that order. Just one of the more talented teams in Class 4A. We'll see if they're able to get it done this year. Looking at some teams just outside the top 10 in Class 4A. We have Cleburne County, who sits at 5-0, with Jason Deese and Cannon Robertson. Cordova is 2-3. Hamilton is the one team that slides out. They went 7-3. They're at 7-3. Went 2-2 this past week. Madison County sits at 8-1. I think they've gotten off to a good start in their area. One of those teams in that 5-team area.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
North Jackson is 6-4. Oak Grove is 9-3. Orange Beach is 6-2. Cherokee County is 7-3, and Dale County rounds us out at 6-1.
You asked about that Westminster loss. It was to Buckhorn last week. So
I think they've played all 6. Best I remember, it's all 6A and 7A teams that they played.
You're right, and that's why they made a big jump there. But that's an impressive start. So we'll go ahead and jump over to 5A now. 5A, we have the same 10 teams, but there's some fairly significant shakeup through 1 through 10. Again, we don't want to continue to say
there are probably some teams outside the top 10 that are shaking their head, and these were some tough decisions. There were a lot of teams that had a real case to be inside this top 10.
You're right, and we'll get to those teams in a minute. I think it's very possible that, and you just said it. There's probably 3 teams that could very easily be in the top 10, but again, we try to side with strength of schedule and then side with record as well. So, but again, it's all going to play out in the end. And we'll talk about some of those teams that just missed and, maybe should be in, but, we'll find out. At number 10, St. Paul's does slide down. They went 1-3 this week, but, every team they played this week was an impressive team. So they do slide down from 8 to 10. At number 9, staying at number 9 is Madison Academy. Madison Academy is at 5-5 after going 2-3 this week. But I'm almost certain that every one of their losses have been to 7A schools. And
Bob
they
Jones, Hewitt
Yep,
Trustful, Huntsville,
Vestavia.
Estavia, who they also beat. I
Yep.
think there's one more, but it was another. It's all 7A schools who they've lost to.
Yep. Yep. So and that's what Madison Academy does every single year. They schedule hard, get ready for the playoffs, and usually you can find them in the Elite Eight, Final Four, in state championship series. At number 8, sliding down just a few spots, Shelby County. They come in at 6-3, a team that I saw on Saturday against James Clemens. Shelby County could have very easily won that game. Shelby County is just a bunch of hard-nosed guys that get after it. That's who their coach is. They're going to compete. They're not going to back down. Shelby County will be around. At number 7, staying put at 7 is Holtville. They come in with a record of 6-4. They went 3-1 last week. At number 6, making a jump from 10 to 6, and rightfully so. And this is a team that wasn't ranked 2 weeks ago, the Pirates of Boaz. They're perfect on the season at 7-1. Impressive start.
7-0. You said
What did I say?
7-1.
My apologies. 7-0. Sorry, Pirate fans. 7-0. Dropping from 2 to 5 this week is Headland. Don't let that record deceive you. High level competition. Headland, the Rams are going to be around. They're going to be there in the end. I don't know if they're going to win it, but they're going to be deep into the playoffs. We know that. At number 4, Sardis jumps up a spot from 5 to 4. Sardis went 3-0 on the week. They currently sit at 3-2. Gulf Shores jumps up from 4 to 3. Again, we've talked about their strength of schedule. Gulf Shores went 2-2 on the week. They're at 8-4. Mobile Christian jumps up. They went 2-2 on the week. Held their own against some really impressive teams. They jump up at number 2 at 8-3. And I don't mind telling you this. There was discussion between Alexandria and Mobile Christian about who was going to be one this week. So what's that?
Mobile Christian is good.
Mobile Christian is good. Yes. And they are, what? They can really hit. They are offensive. They can really hit.
They're athletic.
Yep, they are.
PJ Brown, Damian Gatson.
Yep, you're right. And then I saw Walker Seaman throw for them the number 1. Really impressive arm. Again, there's a reason they're number 2. And then holding on to that top spot again after going 2-0 this week, the Valley Cubs of Alexandria. They come in with a 6-3 record. Now, let's look at some of those teams outside the top 10, because I think 5A sort of rivals 7A. What's that?
I said because there's a lot of them.
Yes. And I believe that this rivals 7A, that there are some good teams right outside that have every right to think they should be ranked. Demopolis at 3-1, a team that I know that you really, really like. Elmore County, they're at 5-0. Have played some good teams. What's that?
Beat Hopeful.
Yes. And they're sitting right outside. I mean, all of these teams, again, they have a case to be 10. They're sitting there at 5-0, undefeated. I think they've got a big week ahead of them this week. Moody comes in at 6-2. Rehoboth 6-3. Russellville, we saw them. They won 2 on Saturday. Russellville got off to a little bit of a shaky start, but as is the case with Russellville, it looks like they are getting on the right footing. They're coming at 5-5. Scottsboro at 4-3. Beat Buckhorn earlier in the season. Southside Gaston is at 6-4. Springville, I forget who it was that Springville beat, but Springville beat someone good this week, and they come in at 7-2. That's a team that could easily be in the top 10. Sylacauga is at 5-1. Another impressive start there at Sylacauga. And then Valley comes in at 8-1. Obviously, headlined by the frontline arm, Jackson Sanders. I know he's throwing today. So, man, we said it, but I mean, there's only 10 spots, and there's about 14 teams there that could legitimately be in those 10 spots. We're not going to take the easy way out and have like a tied for 10th and add like 3 guys. We're not 3 teams. We're not going to do that. We're going to keep it to those 10 spots. But again, there's 4 or 5 teams outside the top 10 that could very easily be ranked. So that'll wrap us up in 5A.
Here's where our viewers will start to pop up a little bit. Getting into 6A, a new number 1.
Hmm.
But starting at the bottom at number 10, Spanish Fort slides down one spot. They went 1-1 this past week, looking to get some arms back, trying to get a little bit more healthy this in the early part of the season. Got some key guys out, especially on the mound. At number 9, making their debut in the 6A poll, Briarwood Christian. They beat Hewitt Trussell this past week. I think they got beat by Vestavia. Went 1-2, but they were undefeated going into this week, and you beat 7A number 4, 7A number 5. That's certainly impressive, and they make their debut in the 6A poll at number 9.
I think they got Chelsea twice this week.
Yep,
I believe that's right. Yeah.
At number 8, sliding down one spot is Faith Academy. The Rams went 1-3 this past week, but played some quality teams out of Mississippi. Didn't go their way, but we both saw them in the South Alabama showdown, and or I did at least, and I was very impressed with them. And looked like their program's getting back to form after winning the state title a few years ago. At number 7 is Pike Road. They went 1-1 this past week and sit at 6-2. That one loss being to Enterprise, where Brady Richardson, a Troy commitment through and was dominant on the mound, but they went 1-1 and slide up one spot to number 7. Staying put at number 6 is Saraland. The Spartans went 4-1 this past week and sit at number 6 with a 7-4 record. Hoping to see them tonight if this rain holds off. At number 5, we have Helena. The Huskies. Man, the more I see scores, more I follow Helena, the more I like them. I really like their roster or their offensive lineup. Got some good arms on the mound as well. They sit at 7-5 and stay put at number 5 this week. At number 4, we have Gardendale, who slides down one spot. They went 1-1 this past week. That one loss being to Vestavia Hills in extra innings. So they come in at number 4 this week. At number 3 is Mountain Brook. The Spartans win a perfect 5-0 this past week and sit at 9-1, headlined by the Barnett brothers. Caleb obviously being the more well-known one, number one prospect of the 2025 class. But watch out for his little brother Paul, who looks like he's getting some significant playing time both at the plate and on the mound. And Mountain Brook's got some other guys. Looking forward to seeing them throughout the rest of the spring. And then flip-flopping in the number 1 and number 2 spots, as it seemed like it's been over the past couple of years. Oxford and Hartselle at the top 2 spots. They flip-flopped this week, played head-to-head. Hartselle was able to win that game 10-2. Oxford comes in at number 2 with a 5-4 record, and then Hartselle takes the top spot with an 8-2 record. Looking at some teams just outside the top 10 in Class 6A, Athens was the lone team to drop out from last week's rankings. They went 1-3 last week and sit at 5-3. Baldwin County, a scrappy, tough-nosed team that we saw in our showdown down here in the Mobile area. They sit at 6-4. Benjamin Russell was a team that I got to see this past week. They beat Opelika in their second game. I think they split. They played earlier in the week. Opelika won that game, but Benjamin Russell was able to win the game that I was at. Got to see Gabe Benton throw. A highly coveted quarterback prospect, but he's really good on the mound too. Was up to 90. So Benjamin Russell's a team to watch in 6A. Homewood sits at 5-3. We've got Hueytown sitting at 8-4 after going 3-1 last week. Homewood went 2-0. Pell City, a team that we've talked a little bit about here in this podcast, have beaten some good teams. They sit at 6-3. Stanhope Elmore went 1-1 this past week. They sit at 3-6. And then Hillcrest Tuscaloosa look to maybe have righted the ship this week. They sit at 4-7 and went 3-1 this past week. So that'll wrap us up in Class 6A.
And so now we'll move to 7A, and I'll take care of 7A.
We sure we want to?
Don't throw that slide up there yet, if you don't mind. Yeah, man. 7A. Let me just tell you something. We went on and on and on about the time, and I'm telling you, it was difficult. 1, 2, 3, 4, but it was just as difficult. 8, 9, and 10. I'm telling you,
it didn't matter. it didn't matter because I think we know who we're talking about. We're talking about the number 1 and the number 2 spots.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
whoever we put at 1, the other team was going to have, and both teams would have had an equal gripe. So someone's not going to be happy, and I get their frustration, but it was a tough decision to make.
You're right, and here's the thing, man. We were game tracking scores on Saturday, and knowing that
we had scenarios typed out. If this happens, this is going to happen. This is what it's going to look like.
If this team wins and this team loses, we're going 1, 2, 3. If this happens, this happens. But then you get down to 8, 9, 10, and it's the same situation. There's a couple teams that are going to be outside this top 10 here that could win a state championship. I mean, it's just the bottom line. And again, I go back to what we said in 5A. There's only 10 spots. And so I guess without further ado, you can go ahead and flash those up, and I'll go over it. We've got one new top 10 this week in 7A, and that's the Sparkman Senators. It is hard to deny what they've done. They currently sit at 8-1. They've had some impressive wins. I know, a week ago Saturday, they swept Hoover and Helena on the same Saturday. They come in 8-1. I will see them this afternoon as they travel to Buckhorn to play the Bucks. Enterprise continues just to churn right along. You mentioned them a little bit earlier in our podcast. They went 1-0 for the week. They currently sit at 5-2. At number 3, dipping just a couple, the Oak Mountain Eagles. They dropped from 6 to 8. They went 2-1 on the week. And again, there's nothing wrong in going 2-1. There's just some teams behind them that continue to impress. And one of those teams is James Clemens. James Clemens stays at 7. They went 4-0 on the week. A team that I saw on Saturday. They went 4-0. Like I said, they come in at 9-2. And this is a compliment to James Clemens. I don't think there's a ton of flash in what they do. They are figuring out ways to score runs. They're small ball and getting big hits. I know Lucier, I forget if it's Carson. Is it Carson? He had a brother. Yeah.
Carson.
Man, he can really he is the definition of a table setter, man. A little tough out up at the plate. Really like him. He's an uncommitted senior. But the Jets are playing just solid baseball. Vestavia Hills drops a spot. They went 2-1 this week. They're at 4-4. But again, I know they dropped a spot after going 2-1, but it's hard to deny what Spain Park has done. And they take a big jump from 8 to 5. And I know they play Hoover. I believe it's tomorrow night. I may be wrong, but they do play them this week.
That's who Vestavia's one loss was to
Spain Park. Like 5-4 or 4-3 on Monday night. Yes.
I watched it on that live stream. Mr. Corey does.
Okay. Did you? I hear you. Our buddy George. Yep. Yeah. So Spain Park is at 9-3. They move up from 8 to 5, holding at number 4, a team that I saw on Friday night, Hewitt Trustful. They went 3-1 last week. We mentioned that one loss to Briarwood. Hewitt Trustful came up north and beat Huntsville and Madison Academy. Man, I'm telling you, Hewitt Trustful, I told you this after the game. They are tough to strike out. It
helps when you have Steele Hall in your leadoff spot.
Yeah, did you see him run, man? Did you see that?
Yeah.
God, he was flying, man. But yeah, hitting leadoff. But they also, they've got other pieces. Don't get me wrong. Carson Weidman, Brett Mosley. They've got those arms. There's other guys, Huffman there that threw when I saw him. So they're good. At number 3, the Warriors of Thompson. They drop a spot. They went 2-2 this week. They come in with a record of 8-5. Make no mistake about it. They're not number 1. They're not number 2, but they could be. I mean, their talent is very impressive. They're well coached. They've played a gauntlet of a schedule. They're
going to continue this week in the East Alabama Classic.
Yeah, and we hope to see them down there. Like I said, I know you'll be there. I may make the trek down there, but Thompson sits at number 3, dropping a spot from number 1 to number 2.
Oh, wait. Didn't these two teams already play?
Yes, these two teams played. Okay. Central does drop from 2.
I'm trying to be the voice for the Central Phoenix City.
I hear you. I understand. You've got a voice for them.
Tough
and
decision.
It was a 1-run game. Emory Yon came up, hosed the tying run at the plate on a freezing cold Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, man, these two teams are, the game they played was a 2-1, throw the time run out the plate. I mean, they're right there together. I mean, you look Central, and I don't mind telling you this now, we were game tracking on Saturday. Like, if Central wins, we've got to keep them at 1, even though Bob Jones had a fantastic week. You can't drop a team from 1-2 when they go undefeated on the week, but they lost an extra inning thriller on Saturday in their last game of the week. Yeah. And that was really the nail in the coffin, I guess you could say, for us in flipping them. But let me make sure that you understand, Central Phoenix City, they're Central Phoenix City. We've said that numerous times on this podcast. They're 10-1. That says enough. Their only loss was to
Mill Creek.
Mill Creek. I was going to say Stars Mill. Yeah, Mill Creek out of Georgia. Last game on Saturday, extra innings. They're 10-1. They could very easily be number 1. But the only reason they aren't at number 1 is look what Bob Jones did last week. Bob Jones ran through a gauntlet of teams last week. They went 4-0, beat the number 1 team in the country. You can't keep Bob Jones out of the 1 spot after what they did last week. I know you and I were going back and forth, and I sent you a text and said, it has to be Bob Jones. And we just continue to go back and forth. We
even texted our Georgia director and asked Mill Creek this year, and we explained the situation. He was like, "Dang, that is a tough decision because they played together. The other team beat them, but you look at Bob Jones, how they did this past. It was
and our people may think we're lying, but our national guy Shooter Hunt even mentioned this game specifically in an email. We got emails about it from our guy Shooter Hunt, who's our national cross checker. So again, hard decision, man, but it'll all play out. That's 10 good teams.
No doubt.
And there's a bunch of them right outside. You look at Auburn, they come in at 5-2. You know what? Auburn will get a chance this weekend, and go out and have a great weekend in that East Alabama Classic. Baker comes in at 9-2. They've been on a roll of late. Chelsea at 7-5. Again, playing a very difficult schedule. We said they're going to play Briarwood Christian twice this week. 7-5. Those arms for Chelsea. I know I wouldn't want to see them in a best 2 out of 3. I know that much. And while we mention 2 out of 3, here's what we often use as a deciding factor. If Team A and Team B played in a best 2 out of 3, who's going to win? That's what we often use in a decision making of who's 1, who's 2, and so forth. You look at Baker when Connor Gatwood's on the mound.
We'll win game 1.
Yeah, they're going to win game 1. That's right. But we try to look at it more than just the top arm. We try to look at the team. So again, Chelsea's going to be a difficult out in a best 2 out of 3. The Hoover Bucks sit at 4-8. They could make a gripe for being in the top 10. Coach Mosley and I talked numerous times, and he said, I may be an idiot for putting this schedule together. I said, no, you're not. I said, you're getting your team ready. And that's what he's doing. They're going to be there. Fairhope, we saw them, man. Really impressive, consistent team, really offensive, 6-5. They're sitting outside the top 10. Opelika, a team that you saw, we were playing with Tupka tonight. They come in at 8-3. Another team in that Auburn, Central Phoenix City area, other than Opelika, Smith Station. They're at 5-5. That's a gauntlet of an area. We've talked about those Birmingham areas. Well, there's another one down there where 2 good teams are going to be left out. Tuscaloosa County, we saw them a week and a half ago. Really impressive. Spencer Nicholas on the mound gives them a chance against anyone. Jashawn Moten also, they've got some arms. They're going to be tough out. They're in that SEC West, I guess you can say, baseball area in the Birmingham area. And then Mary G. Montgomery, man, has really gotten off to a good start. A team that you may be seeing this week. Is that right? Am I wrong?
Yeah. They play Wednesday against St. Paul's, I think.
Yeah, and if the rain holds off, you'll be there to see them. So
I think Wednesday should be good.
Yeah. So we, again, man, some really tough decisions, and that makes it fun. That it is difficult, but it makes it fun. Yeah. So that's where 7A is right now. Check back next week, and you never know where 7A is going to be because there'll be some movement again. But that's our 1A through 7A poll. So now I guess it's time to reveal our Prep Baseball Alabama Power 25. This is the second week of this. Austin, you want to get us rolling there?
Yes. Coming in at number 25, these number 24 and number 25, both these teams make their debut in the top 25. At number 25 is Mary G. Montgomery at 7-2. At number 24 is Bayside Academy at 6-2. At 23 is Faith Academy at 6-4. At 22 is Chelsea at 7-5. At 21 is Pike Road at 6-2. At 20 is Mobile Christian at 8-3. And number 19 is Alexandria at 6-3. And that's how close those 5A teams are.
Yeah,
we talked about it, how close Alexandria and Mobile Christian were. They're 19 and 20 in the Power 25 poll. We'll see who has the better next couple of weeks here in Class 5A. At number 18 is Saraland at 7-4. At number 17 is Hoover at 4-8. At 16 is Auburn at 5-2. At 15 is Sparkman at 8-1. At 14 is Enterprise at 5-2.
Look at 14. Look at 14 through 17. There's that 8. There's 9 and 10, and those next two out.
Yep. All 70 schools.
Yep.
At number 13 is Helena at 7-5. 12 is Oak Mountain at 8-3. And number 11 is James Clemens at 9-2. And number 10 is Gardendale at 5-3. And number 9 is Vestavia Hills at 4-4. And number 8 is Spain Park at 9-3. And number 7, making a big jump this week, is Mountain Brook at 9-1. And number 6 is Oxford at 5-4. And number 5, staying put there this week, is Hewitt Trustful, sitting at 7-3. Sliding up a couple spots, we have Hartselle at number 4 with an 8-2 record. At number 3 is Thompson with an 8-5 record. And then at number 2 is Central Phoenix City with a 10-1 record. And then jumping up 3 spots this week, taking over the number 1 spot in this Class 7A poll and in the Power 25 poll is the Bob Jones Patriots, reeling off a perfect 4-0 week this past weekend and currently sitting at 9-2 and holding the top spot in the Power 25.
So there you have it, man. A lot of work went into these rankings. I can assure you, a lot of discussion, maybe some arguing. Maybe not arguing is the right word, but going to bat for different teams. What's that?
I said, whoa.
Maybe not arguing, but a lot of discussion, I guess you can say. But man, it's liable to be completely changed next week. Again, be on the lookout tomorrow for the pitcher and player of the week, sponsored by Mizuno. Our Diamond Notes on Wednesday. That scout blog will be rolling out daily as we get out and cover games, dependent on the weather this week. Let's hope it holds off, and we'll be back at it. And I know it's another big week. Let's hope Mother Nature allows us to play some games this week. But for Austin Sharp, Alabama Scouting Director, I'm David Sharp, the Deep South Supervisor. We greatly appreciate you jumping on, and we will see you next week. Take care.